Hey everyone, it's Imanee and River, and we're tuning in from Tulum, Mexico, actually.
Hey.
So we wanted to give you an update, and we wanted to continue the conversation around hemp, but specifically talking about the frequency of hemp, give you some of the updates that we're working on, what we're up to, and sort of the revelations that we're having. We took some time here in Mexico because we're working on doing some writing, actually, and some revisions to my book, The Absence, Presence of Soil.
It's good when we do that. You say the absence, I say the presence.
Yeah. River's reading it, actually, and we're revising it because I actually wrote it 10 years ago, and then I printed it right before things got crazy in the world, and so I have a lot more to say. And I wanted to include River's voice as well, because he has a lot to say, don't you?
Not quite as much, but.
Yes, you do. But we're bringing together and the comprehension for me and the understanding of the role hemp plays, because part of our coming together is that we're realizing hemp is a connector plant, it's a sacred plant, but really it is what brought us together. Both of us, have a passion and understanding of what this plant and the cannabis consciousness is here to do on the planet right now. So we wanted to dive a little bit into that conversation, that exploration. And we imagine many of you are being attracted to us around this plant as well. We've been doing our freedom potlucks and adding in the hemp talks, and they've been really, really well received. And people are, hungry for this information, like the nourishment of the community conversation. And we'll tell you a little bit more what we're doing with that, but also around how this hemp can be used in so many ways. Obviously, from my business, so many ways. Healing the body,
nice
shirts like River's wearing, building the homes, but regenerative agriculture, what it's here to do for how it's regenerating our bodies and the planet's body. So. Do you want to talk about your kind of epiphany around the energy of hemp?
Sure.
Good.
Definitely willing to talk about that. Anything hemp. It's this connection that this plant is bringing that seems really relevant to now. Obviously, a multitude of benefits on the physical side of things. And I always knew there was something special about this plant and what it was doing. And I had this kind of epiphany that, the prohibition of this plant is actually being a grace, actually has been protecting this plant, the hemp part of the plant, from not getting exploited like maybe the cannabis side of the plant has over the last decade, really. And it's protected it for these times. It's protected the frequency of the plant. And I think even on the scalar thing, the hemp plant was of a high frequency, which is, sorry, I'm playing with my pen. And it seems really relevant. And that's why I feel it's a big part of creating these new communities, which
is what brought us together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just traveling around and seeing what wasn't working with communities. And a lot of that was around the misunderstanding of what it takes to start something like that, and economics being one of them, when we're living in this world where that's an exchange system, and then people leave that thinking that they can just somehow manifest in nature without anything like that, and they lose their kind of will, move back to the cities. These communities disband, they don't last very long, or they get very small. And I think hemp brings a lot, and just on what our travels.
As a connector plant, it's making those connections.
And just, we traveled, I think last week when we were traveling in Kansas, was really relevant, going to the fields, seeing the plant. It wasn't growing at that time. It had been dropped onto the ground, and it was retting in the field, ready to be processed. And just how amazing that connection is. Like, I worked in architecture all around the world, building hotels, building all kinds of stuff, traveling to over 30 countries to find places to get things built. And never was I going to a farmer's field. You know, never did I go into an agricultural environment to find materials for the projects, these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar projects. It was all this, you know, kind of commercialized systems, industrialized systems, and there's nothing wrong with industry, but I think it was totally detached from nature. And, you know, I think what this plant's doing is bringing us back into contact and connection with nature in a new way, in a kind of more energized way.
Well, energetic and holistic, really.
Yeah.
Regenerative. What was interesting for me, so we went to the fields in Kansas and to South Bend Industrial Hemp to see where they're actually processing it. I thought it was also fascinating that there's no waste with the product they're using. So as River described, they're breaking down the plant and then they're turning it into the herd, which is used for the industrial building. And we are pioneering a whole new industry. So we're not anti-industry. We're actually about creating the new healthy industry and new healthy homes, living homes. And part of the education that we're doing as we're traveling around is just planting that seed of what a hemp home is, and different than some of the other natural building materials that you've experienced too, like the earth bag homes. People ask us what's the difference between earth bag and adobe. So there is something really specific and magical about the hemp, and it being this breathing, living organism. And you know,
in the Vedic tradition, you know, about they look very specifically at the materials and the frequency of materials. Like, for example, steel is a very dirty conductor of energy, and so, you know, in a Vedic temple, you don't want to use steel. Doesn't make any sense. So you want to. So
you wouldn't want to live in a container home, for example.
The frequency is.
But a lot of
apart from, you know, not only that, but what's being stored in them and transported and shipped in them, who knows? So it's like, what are you taking on with this kind of architecture that looks good in the magazines, and it's like, wow, it's like,
and it's the idea that we're recycling them, but even if I'm going to earthships, if it's not serving a purpose and you're actually having to buy things like tires instead of recycling them, then to what point is it really accomplishing what it is that we want to do? And it stuck out for me when I heard you say at one of our talks that the way that homes are built today were built to solve a problem decades ago, but it wasn't really thought out how that problem was being solved.
Or maybe it was.
Well, maybe it was, and it created more problems. Was it designed to create these sick environments, just like our food system, just like what's putting into our waters and being sprayed into our skies? So were we creating these
and into our bodies?
Right.
Yeah.
So all of these things that, as we return back to the plant, as it's been deregulated in hemp through, and you know, the CBD and CBG products that I use come from industrial hemp. This plant as well. This was the origin of this plant before it was hybridized to have these higher and higher levels of THC. So was that intentional to have this plant being so distorted to bring people into these other states? And not to say that, you know, we have any position on THC, but I think if we look at the plant and how it has grown naturally and around the world as a weed, what is the purpose of it? That it can be turned into fiber for clothes, that it can be used to build these really healthy homes, that it can be used to nourish our bodies and feed our endocannabinoid systems that are deficient because it hasn't been growing in our environment. It hasn't been in the pollen. The animals haven't been eating it that we're consuming. So we're essentially have not had access in so many ways to this plant. And so in a way, I think what you said the other day when we were talking is like, it's been kind of protected. She's been protected because we haven't had access to her.
Or maybe we weren't ready.
And maybe we weren't ready, that this is the time for her to come back and make herself present, that we're ready to actually be building out the new earth with the awareness that we're all having of what's going on, because now so many people are really seeing. Before, it was not as easy to see what was happening, or we weren't really willing to see it. Some of us saw it, but many people are waking up and in a sense being forced to be woken up. But then that parallel emergence of her coming back and us returning to nature, returning to the land, returning to an understanding of this. And there is something that happens when we actually consume this plant. It's like it wakes you up. And so, I mean, you know, it's something that we eat the hemp, we're wearing the hemp, we're sharing information about the hemp, and now we're moving into really building the workforce that's going to be able to build the houses with hemp, because this is all a true new frontier. That's why we talk about we're hempineers. We're pioneering this new industry, this new economy, this new way, the new ways of learning. One of the things that we're really passionate about with the natural building course is really making it accessible to all people, to the youth, to the indigenous communities that are growing hemp, so that we can create the people that can be building these healthy homes. Imagine being a builder and not being exposed to the toxicities that they've been exposed to.
Well, it's like, I think that speaks a lot to the youth and what's going on now. And the youth that we've connected to, just one young Mexican guy last night who came with his family to the gathering, he wanted to take his picture with me. I mean, he didn't know it, it's not like he's following us or something, but because I showed him the pictures of the natural building, and he's like doing something at school around, and he's been like researching like natural, but like eco building and all this kind of stuff. And the idea of hemp, like, there's something that switches on in their eyes, like, huh? It's like, what? You're building with a plant? They can understand Lego bricks. They can understand all kinds of things that are kind of maybe thoughtful as to how we can create houses quickly or something like that, or more cost effectively. But something that's really healthy and that is from a plant, and it just starts to shift the dynamic of what are the structures we can live in. And I think it speaks to this self-love that we're finding, and I think that's the thing, is like, if we really love ourselves, are we gonna put toxins in our body? Are we gonna live in toxic environments? Are we gonna eat unhealthy food? It's when we don't have that self-love that we don't care. We're like, I'm just destroying myself.
And part of it is we didn't know, because I would say that I've been trying to create healthy environments, but in a world that's more not in nature and cities. So you're looking at, yes, the carpets, the walls, the paints, but we weren't thinking beyond that to the actual building. And a lot of people that we've come across didn't even know that was possible. So part of the education that we're doing is just to share with people what's possible. If you don't know what we're doing at Haven Earth, you can go to the website at havenearth.biz. I'll drop that in there, and you can also become a member. And that's a one-time donation. $11 gets you into our database and an invitation to join us. We're going to be starting this Friday, October 1st. So if you're listening to this past that point, it's going to be on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for everyone that has donated and is supporting us. We really appreciate you all. So that's going to get you in the conversation with specifically to building community with hemp, not just the hemp homes, but building community with the consciousness of this plant. And so every week we're going to use that as an opportunity, really, because part of what my purpose on the planet is to connect people. I'm here to activate the grid and make the connections. We're here in Tulum, and we're connecting with people that are interested in doing things with hemp, but we're connecting with people that are looking for community. And so making those connections. Just last night, we had a beautiful freedom potluck in Tulum, and we had represented me, the only person from the States, people from Mexico, River from the UK, someone from France, someone from Norway, and someone from Canada. And I think that speaks to this global family that's unifying, that those of us that are waking up but now finding each other and connecting. So Haven Earth is an umbrella to connect people who are looking to build community with this consciousness specifically. And we're looking to build the workforce, to build the homes that we want to live in, because we're loving ourselves.
Not just us, but
not just us, all of you, because we know all of you. If you want to live in a hemp home, put it in the chat. But we've heard from so many that's what you're seeing the vision, and you're wanting the same things that we're wanting. And we want to build that out and build the communities that have the economic infrastructure, because hemp is so abundant. It's so abundant in so many ways. That's why they're trying to control it. Do you want to speak to that?
I think with this audience, we don't need to speak to anything about control. I think everybody understands that. But yeah. Speaking
of why it's important to keep it in the hands of the people.
Yeah, I don't want to get too distracted with that. Because we could go on, and I could go on at length. To sum it up would be to say that they can't control it.
Exactly.
And that's
Okay,
the
that
point.
was my point that I was trying to
That
get you
is
to
the
say.
point. And that's the thing, is like that it's always the way, right? They want to make the illusion that they're in control, or that we are being controlled. But essentially, we're making all the.
But that's what's
we're
making
all
them
the,
so nervous,
yeah,
is that
we're,
they can't
we're
control
making,
it.
Didn't you say you wanted me to talk about that?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Like, ask me a question, then finish all my answers. Yeah, it's sweet. But what I was, I think just what we're doing with this call is there's obviously more people who are looking for solutions. They have a sense of wanting to be in community and not sure exactly how that looks like. And in a way, none of us really know what that looks like. But if we start with good foundations, like, feeling based relating and sympathy, and being able to articulate and speak of our feelings to each other and share that stuff, that's really important. Finding things that are natural part of our ecosystem that we can work with to transition into abundance in other ways, I think that's a great place to start. How exactly the communities are going to look like, I have some ideas of how to start some, and we talked a lot about that as well. And for us, it's like bringing people around the consciousness of hemp as we come together to talk about community is a different element, because if we just talk about community, we just end up getting into like the political side of how we're going to make decisions, how we're going to do this.
It wasn't progressing in the way, because you get so sidetracked with everything else. But when it's like what you said when you visited the Anastasia communities in Russia, that if you don't have a purpose, those communities kind of fall apart. And I think bringing us together around this central purpose of hemp and this plant, and returning to nature and greening kind of bringing that us back to nature. I mean, a lot of people have the idea about going back to nature on land, but it gives us a more refined purpose. And right now we're really about refinement of everything, and how we're in our navigations, because we're moving, we're definitely physically activating the grid with all of our travels. Just as an update to that, I'll put in, for the community conversations, you have to go and get the link and join the mailing list, and we invite you to become a member. But we're also doing events, and the schedule of events is on the same link. So if you want to know the upcoming talks and things that we have going on, the workshop in Hawaii and Texas and all of that, that's there too. Yeah.
Can we finish now so we can go have a kiss and break?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good place to start, to bring people in under something like hemp. I think the vibration, the way people are connecting around it is so relevant to people, and it gives us somewhere to focus our attention and find our way within the amazing plethora of opportunity that lies pretty dormant, actually, in this plant, especially in this part of the world. I mean, China's been using hemp for years. I mean, they're pioneered it. In some ways, Europe's been using it for 20 years. And
for building.
CBD came in later in the last decade, pretty much. But it hasn't really taken off in a lot of respects, which is interesting, because I see that here it has a huge potential to take off, because there's the agricultural land, and there's a lot of places that I think are going to transform, somewhat terraform in the next 5 to 10 years, that will, once not seen as places to grow, are going to become the abundant growing areas of the country. And that's down in, I don't want to say too much, that's for other conversations, because that's actually what we're going to be sharing with the community, is where we really see this going, and what are these areas that are proven to be really relevant to the new kind of parallel systems that are going to be created, the decentralized systems, logistics routes, food, materials. We're going to have to find our own ways to do life like never before, and I think that's really what this is about. It's about like coming together to get an understanding of how we can support that, because there's a lot happening. one person from the workshop we did in New Mexico, she went back home. She contacted the people that we went to visit in Kansas who do the growing. Now she's growing 10 acres, starting to grow 10 acres of hemp. She's getting the seeds. Then that's going to get used. They're going to process that for her. So people are like, okay, I can do this.
It's like it's within reach.
And that's in New Mexico. It's not the first place you think about growing hemp necessarily. So, put the seeds in the ground. Start planting them seeds.
We're planting the seeds in your consciousness right now. So hopefully we've created some curiosity, and we really are excited to be working on the aspect of the kind of guides that people can use through these. The one-day hemping workshops are really just to get people's hands in the hemp. The trainings are more for people who are builders that want to build a house. So if you're just curious, a one-day hemping workshop or a talk is great. But if you're a builder, you have some skills, even if you're a young person that's had a couple of years of experience being around building, those are the people that we're looking to build the workforce. So it's, having that skill set and looking at different contractors in different regions of the country where it'll be kind of set up in alignment with where the processing plants are. This is a burgeoning, and this is an industry that's about to explode in so many ways. So we really feel like it's kind of, we're at the cutting edge of it, and we want to do the educational part, because in order to tip any kind of concept into, the larger consciousness, we have to have that tipping point, right? We have to be, as a collective, move us there. So we know that the more we educate people about this plant in all of the various ways, how it can regenerate the soil from the toxicities, how we can turn it into fiber and make clothes that we can wear, and how we can support companies like Dash, Hemp, where we're getting all River shirts from, and Hempies, where we have those amazing hats that he's always wearing. And I actually got some hemp clothes. It seems to be more for men, but the purchasing and supporting those local companies, and also then moving into, eating the hemp. If you're interested in what hemp food we're feeding our bodies, I can put that link in there as well, but reach out to us. Or if you're interested and you have land and you want to build and you're looking for the designer, that's River. But then we can design a house, but if we don't have the people to build it, that's where we're seeing this kind of, I don't know what you call it, like the kind of hub, because that can be a hub for a community. You can build a community around that economics. And that's really the vision that you've been seeing, is the seed center, this like learning, like we're teaching people. I mean, many of you know I've homeschooled my children, and it was all around life skills. And so I think this is, as more and more people are choosing to homeschool their children, I'm so excited about the idea of teaching the young people how to build their own homes, and from seed. And you'll see, we have the story. We saw the plants, the herd that's going to Hawaii. If you're not following us on Instagram, you can see more of that there. We'll do a live there, but from the shipment that went over to Hawaii, that's going over in the cargo now, and we'll actually get to Hawaii on the same day that it arrives, right? Yeah. So we went to the fields that the hemp came from, and now we're going to Hawaii to help them build a hempel there on the land. And we're so excited to be working with, and we're actually going to have them on a live this weekend, Anita and Joe, who are the hosts for the workshop in Hawaii. Maybe you can share a little bit about what their project, and we'll do a live and share more. And we have some background noise here, but
that's
I know what that is. It's Tulum. Anything can be going on. Maybe it's a sign that we should close the conversation. But we're going to do a live with them this Sunday from, we'll be moving to Mexico City. So that'll be happening. So if you're interested in that workshop, it's on the events page too. And I'll put that in the comments again. I think I have it right here. So that's that. And yes, we really appreciate everyone tuning into the conversation. River's shutting all the windows, so it's a little quieter. Do you want to say anything about Hawaii?
Oh my.
Excited and nervous.
Well, about the travel part. We're navigating.
We get through it. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, they're cool people. They retired, had a contracting business, and now they've they had like 5 acres. They split that 5 acres into 5 parcels. They sold 4 of them to a collective of friends at like a really, no profit price kind of thing. And they're kind of creating a little community there. And I think like 3 or 4 of them out of the 5 are wanting to build with hemp. So Joe wanted to do a little workshop. He did a workshop before, but didn't really get too much out of it. Now he wants to do a proper structure on his land. So we're going to go build that. It's a non-permitted structure. So it's below permitting requirements of 120 square foot out there. And that's actually true for quite a lot of places, so you could build a small structure that's non-permitted. It's not that it's unpermitted, it's non-permitted. And then, it's simple. We can build it in a workshop. And so we're doing that there. And it'll be a great experience because people will get to learn everything you need to know in a smaller structure that you would need in a bigger structure. So it's great to get that opportunity.
STAR's creating a brick company, Aircrete, Hempcrete, Adobe, but bricks to build the villages. Definitely reach out to STAR. I'll put, if anybody is interested in reaching out to River for consult, or if you have connections and resources, I'll put his email in here. It's just info@havenearth.biz. And all of it is on our website again, which is havenearth.biz. So you can pretty much find us and track us down. People are tracking us down in interesting ways. We just had somebody reach out that has some large amount of land in Kansas that wants to do something with it. So if you have resources and connections, definitely wanting to collaborate and connect the dots. That's part of our mission at Haven Earth, is to do that, is to be the resource. So we really appreciate everyone tuning in, and hope to see you all soon. Lots of love from Mexico.
See you Friday, maybe.
Yeah.